Hey, friends, before we rev up for Monster Man, I wanted to say real quick, because you might not have heard this if you don't listen at the end of the program, that we would love to hear from you. You can send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of the films we've talked about. Let us know films you want us to talk about in the future, or just generally harass and harm David.
That's also true, yes.
It's honestly addicting, and you can't really stop once you start. It's like eating Pringles.
I mean, and for the record, Urban Legend, April Fool's Day, and several others were recommendations through email that we covered that were not on our schedule normally.
Yeah, so if you want to write us and tell us what you want to see, what you want to hear about, etc., just send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com, and we'll read it at the end of a future episode.
Yes.
But now, on to Monster Man.
Monster Man.
Or not. No, we'll do it.
On a desolate stretch of highway, out in the middle of nowhere.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Two friends.
Whoa, 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 check out the Space Cowgirl.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
I'm Harley, and this is my dorky friend Adam.
Are about to face
This road is really creeping me out.
terror at every turn.
Just let it pass us.
What the hell is going on?
I'm gonna kill you!
Monster Man. Hell on Wheels. Available on video and DVD.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Enrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hey, my friends, and welcome back to Do You Even Movie? I'm your host, Enrique Couto, here with my good buddy. What was the nickname from the movie I was going to call you? I can't remember now.
I can't remember now either.
It was probably very offensive.
I'm sure it was, yeah.
But David Denoyer.
Greetings, everybody.
And this week we have a very special treat for you.
Yes.
We like to bring you guys deep cuts from time to time, but this might be one of the deeper cuts. It feels like one of the deeper cuts we've brought.
I just love the fact that originally this episode was going to be Point Break, and then somehow it turned into this.
Well, because if anybody needs to know anything about me personally, it's that I have more of a emotional connection to Monster Man than I do to Point Break.
To Point Break, yes.
So, and that's what tonight's film is. It's 2003's Monster Man. And I know what you may possibly be thinking. What is Monster Man?
Oh, yeah, I guarantee they are.
This is a film that when I was a teenager, a young teenager, was constantly on Showtime and cable in general. They had just introduced a few years earlier the Showtime additional channels.
Yeah.
Showtime 2, Showtime Beyond. And they would play the same movies over and over on the other channels. So I caught Monster Man a lot. But ironically, as we were watching the film, which was probably the first time I'd seen it in over 10 years, I remembered nearly everything.
You really did. No, you
was
absolutely
bizarre.
did. I recently revisited this. I think Letterboxd said it was beginning of the year. I watched it, and I did not have as much recollection as you did, and I just saw
and I watched it as a teenager, So, no joke, I used to joke, I'd be like, I bet I've watched this 20 times. After watching, I was like, shit, I bet I watched this 20 times.
Yeah.
Well, and it as you're going to see when we dive into it, it's a svelte 90 minutes of ridiculous action. It's early 2000s as fuck. It's so silly, so ridiculous, so gross.
Oh, yeah.
Everything a growing body needs.
Absolutely.
And what caused us to decide this and why I'm introing it this way is we never would have even considered talking about Monster Man on the show, at least not now.
No, not now. I don't think it would have come natural. I think it would have had to have been how it happened.
But we were watching. What were we watching?
We were getting ready to dive into whatever his movie was previous that week. I want to say it would have Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, because I had a copy.
Yeah.
So when Wet Hot American Summer ended, it was like, here's some other stuff to watch, and I was like, Monster Man. We click on it, and not only is it uncut Monster Man, but in high definition for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Monster Man has not been on Blu-ray. It was on VHS and DVD.
Bluray in the States.
Well, in America, in the United States of America.
Yeah, because we did find out one got, I think it was Germany got it. Which, what the hell, Germany?
So it's worth saying, if you have Amazon Prime in the United States,
oh yeah,
you, and maybe other places, but definitely in the US, you can pause this, sit down with a bowl of popcorn, and you can watch Monster Man in high definition. And because we are, this may be news to everybody, but because we are film geeks,
yes,
seeing a film that we had seen a million times on a tube television, basically, seeing that in high def, in widescreen, with a great sound mix, it's like seeing the movie again for the first time. And then doubles up with the fact that I have a home cinema. So we watch it on a 120-inch screen with surround sound blaring, and it becomes a whole fun thing. I mean, we probably mentioned before, like, Dave will buy a new Blu-ray of a movie he's always loved, and his first question is like, you want to watch it at your place? You know, because, well, I mean, that's why I made the investment. So that all being said, we were Titanicing this film. We were watching it again for the first time. And it did not disappoint.
No.
Not in the least. So I am thrilled to tell you guys about a deep cut you may have never heard of, or maybe you remember flipping through the channels past it.
Yeah, I know this played Sci-Fi at least. I know that for a fact.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
It might have.
Yeah, because I remember at least being on there twice.
So you got to remember, I was thrust into adulthood in 05, 06. So I missed a lot. I didn't have cable ever again after I left the house. So, but I remember so many nights, like half asleep in bed and flipping through and being like, oh man, Monster Man's on again. And like catching the last half or the first half. I probably fell asleep to that movie a dozen times.
I mean, I could see that.
So,
I think Monster Man for me is just a absolute reminder of the good old days of new release Tuesday at Walmart, where I would either get out of school or even sometimes go before school to Walmart because every Tuesday would be the new releases. So you'd have the stuff from Anchor Bay, you'd have the stuff from Lionsgate, because this is a Lionsgate release, Monster Man is. And
well, before Lionsgate was the Lionsgate we know now. When Lionsgate was a force on home video.
Home video, Dead Clowns. Remember Dead Clowns?
I do. Remember Sick, Serial Insane Clown Killer?
Clown Killers. I remember that one.
Yeah, a lot of the younger listeners only know Lionsgate from when they burst into theatrical distribution. I believe their biggest film in theatrical to start them off was Fahrenheit 9/11.
Fahrenheit 9/11, yeah. And then I think I want to say Devil's Rejects got some notoriety for how big of a release it was for them too.
Yeah, well, because that was originally at Universal, but then they ditched it.
Yeah.
So Lionsgate was starting to make a play, but as a person who was working in film, the very basics of working, I was a teenager, but I was trying to get in. It was a very big deal. Like everybody's dream was like, I'm going to make a movie and Lionsgate's going to take it.
Yeah.
Because they would place it everywhere. It'd be on cable, it'd be in Blockbuster, it'd be in Hollywood Video, it'd be everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was where any movie that was not quite full-blown Hollywood was at that point.
Not quite my tempo.
Not quite my fucking tempo. But for real, because before that we had, Vidmark. We had Live Entertainment, which eventually got bought up by Vidmark.
Yep.
Artisan, which bought up all their catalogs after they made all that money off of Blair Witch Project.
Yep.
You had all of these different companies, and a lot of them didn't survive the 90s.
Yeah.
So Lionsgate was kind of the up-and-comer at that point. And they were releasing like the bigger stuff, because this is not a little tiny B movie. It probably cost a couple $1 million.
Yeah. Shot
on 35 millimeter, incredible truck stunts. But a very small cast, very controlled movie
set, yeah.
And I could not believe how much it held up.
Oh, it absolutely did.
And my favorite thing, if I had to sell it one last time before we talk about it, before we just tell you about the whole movie.
Yeah.
You know how when you watch Entourage,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, wow, this is like a time capsule of Maxim magazine America?
Yeah.
This movie is as well if you were a loser
Yeah.
during the Maxim magazine era.
I can see that.
Myself. Because it has that butch, like, bro, but also like the nerdy jokes.
Oh, yeah.
The really like the impossibility of getting laid jokes, the fart humor. It's really like a perfect time capsule of being a dweeb.
I feel like the only thing it lacks is new metal. It doesn't have enough new metal. The trailer has new metal.
Well, the movie has almost no songs.
No,
I mean, it's almost all the score.
Yeah.
And the score is great, but it's definitely not the kind of score you would expect for this film.
No.
And I think this film caught the upswing when torture porn was first hitting.
Yeah.
It really got grabbed by that era because we had Saw and we had Hostel
and I mean Serbian film at that point too.
Wow, it's that old.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Serbian film's old enough to, well, let's move on.
Oh God.
So
Wolfdan, if you're listening, that joke's for you.
that one's for you, brother. That one's for you. So I wanted to give it a proper intro because it's not often that I plead with our audience to watch a film.
Absolutely.
But I know you'll like it.
Yeah. So we are talking about Monster Man from 2003, 1 hour and 35 minutes, rated R for strong horror, violence, and gore, language, and some sexuality.
Yes, there is language in the film. It's English.
It is, yes, it is English. So our director and writer on the film is Michael Davis, and he gets his start in 1992 as a writer and director on The Amazing Live Sea Monkeys. He does writing on Prehysteria in 1993.
The Albert Band directed Charlie Band. Miniature dinosaurs.
Yes.
I love Prehysteria.
Then he does Beanstalk, writes and directs that in 94. 8 Days a Week, which is his big teen hit in 97, which he also writes and directs. And then he does the Double Dragon movie in 94, which he was, I think he's got a screenplay credit on.
Okay.
He's got Prehysteria 2 in 94 as well.
Probably characters.
Yeah. Pet Shop in 94, Prehysteria 3 in 95, The Incredible Genie in 99. He does 100 Girls, which is another one of his teen movies in 2000, Girl Fever 2002, Monster Man in 2003, and then in 2007, he writes and directs a little film called Shoot 'Em Up.
Which I have not seen, have I?
Yeah, you have.
When did I see that?
Clive Owen is the gunman, and
Oh,
Paul
oh.
Giamatti's the villain.
Yeah, that's
that
a great
insane,
film.
That insane movie.
That's a
I'm
great
sure,
film.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No,
So
I
he does
remember that.
Shoot 'Em Up in 2007, writing Shotgun in 2013, and then his last writing and directing credit is 2022 for Nixed. Nixed. I think it's like a Nixon documentary from what I could tell from IMDb.
Okay.
So then moving down to our cinematographer is Matthew Irving. He gets his start as cinematographer in 97 with a movie called One, does Groove in 2000, My Best Friend's Wife 2001, Speakeasy 2002, Baggage in 2003, same year as Monster Man in 2003, Keep Your Distance, and then in 2005 he shoots Waiting.
Waiting, the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Ryan Reynolds movie.
Okay.
Then in 2008, he does Under Still Waters, Table for Three in 2009, Waiting Forever 2010, Redemption Road in 2010, Quarantine 2 Terminal in 2011, All Things Fall Apart 2011, Lee and Grant 2011, Stash House, Son of Afghan Farmer, Geography Club, Woodstock, Sins of Youth, Outlaws and Angels, Armed Response, Blood Brother, Psycho Escort in 2020.
Oh, is that a Lifetime movie?
That's an
All
Element
right.
movie that I have watched, yes. He does Space Between in 2021, and Sid is Dead most recently in 2023. Now, the one thing I realized I left out here. Oh, no, there it is. So in 2005, he does Waiting. 2007, he does Waitress, the Kerry Russell movie.
Okay.
So he does two restaurant movies back to back.
Yeah, back to back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he knew how to photograph those little red cups we loved from back in the day.
And Space Between actually was a big release. I think 2021. It was one of those love stories that came, like teen love stories that came out.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact the synopsis of it, but I mean that was a big one that he did after doing a bunch of B movies for the most part. Because Armed Response and Outlaws and Angels were like straight to videos.
Armed Response always confuses me because I think of the Fred Olin Ray movie.
Well, there's
Armed
so many
Response.
titles of Armed Response. So many movies have that name. So moving down to our IMDb synopsis, it says 2 guys and a female hitchhiker are terrorized by a monstrous-looking man driving a giant monster truck.
I mean, You know what? I mean, there you got your steak,
really
you got
do,
your
yeah.
potatoes. What more do you fucking want?
My synopsis.
So, yeah, you gonna try and improve that?
I mean, on a cross-country road trip, two friends cross paths with a monster truck driving psychopath who takes limbs from his victims but leaves them alive.
Oh, so you're gonna leave the girl out, huh?
I mean,
rude.
She comes in halfway
How
through.
rude.
Oh, my God. So moving down to our cast, we have Eric Jungmann, who plays Adam in this. He gets his start in 1998 on The Faculty, Varsity Blues in 99, Walker, Texas Ranger 99, Third Rock from the Sun, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Judging Amy, As Told by Ginger, Drive-In in 2000, That's Life in 2000, Even Stevens, Winning London, the Mary-Kate and Ashley movie.
Ah, yes.
Then he does what I know him most from, Not Another Teen Movie in 2001. He plays Ricky.
Oh, well, and he was on a million commercials.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Grounded for Life, Monster Man in 2003. Then he does 8 Simple Rules, Happy Endings 2005, The Night Stalker remake, CSI, Cold Case, Veronica Mars, Bones, Killer Pad, NCIS, True Blood, Criminal Minds, Castle, Major Crimes, and then in 2022 he does Bite Size Halloween, which if I remember correctly, that was the little shorts they were doing on Hulu for a little bit. The Halloween
Oh, I
shorts.
remember that. Yeah,
we watched a couple of them.
Bite-sized Halloween.
He actually wrote and directed one of them.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Moving on down, we have Justin Urich, who plays Harley in this. He gets his start in 1996 with ER, then does Boy's Life in 2 in 97, Smart Guy in 97, appears on Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 97, Arliss, Silk Stockings, Secret World of Alex Mack, Third Rock from the Sun.
Man, when you are on Silk Stockings and Secret World of Alex Mack,
Yeah.
back to back, baby. That is funny. For those who don't know, Silk Stockings was the only basic cable erotic thriller TV series.
Yeah.
And I remember it only because when I was done watching whatever I was watching on USA, you'd hear the saxophones.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd know it was time
time.
for Silk Stockings.
So then in 98, he appears on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
I remember the episode he was in because I was
You just rewatched a bunch of those, didn't you?
when I was an avid watcher of Beyond Belief.
Yeah.
Again, perfect age. I'm like 12 when it's airing. Friday nights, home alone with a pizza. That show would scare me.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember him appearing on it because I was a fan of him from Serial Killing 101.
Yeah.
And eventually Monster Man. Anyway.
So Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction in 97, Scrapbook in 99, Rage Carry 2 in 99, The West Wing in 99, Across the Line 2000, Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps 2000, Horror 101, How High, Jag, Monster Man, Winter Break, Gilmore Girls, Dragnet, Serial Killing 101, CSI, Lake Placid 2, Perfect Life, and Dead Awake in 2010.
He kind of vanished.
Yeah.
After
2010, he kind of falls off.
He
yeah.
had a very long career of being the douchey young guy in nearly everything.
Everything, yeah.
I remember loving him in Serial Killing 101, which he was with Lisa Loeb.
Yep,
in
that's
that.
correct.
And Lisa Loeb, who was like damn near 40 in it, but looked like she was still in high school.
She actually just got featured on the part 2 of that 90s show. They have a whole Lisa Loeb episode.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
But I remembered loving that movie. I remember Horror 101. I really liked that one too. Those were Lionsgate releases.
Yeah.
Or not Lionsgate, Anchor Bay,
yeah.
releases on
Yeah.
DVD. He was a lot of fun. He was kind of likable and silly in those movies. He was also very clean cut.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that some of those were after he'd done Monster Man, because I remember watching Monster Man and going, wait, the clean cut, like edgy kid is now, and this is like the fat bearded best friend. Okay. And no, he did an amazing job.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I was always bummed that he kind of vanished, and I guess it was 2010. He just stopped acting.
Stopped acting. So then rounding us out is Michael Bailey Smith, who plays the titular Monster Man in this.
Titular,
Titular, right?
Titular?
Titular. I thought it was, whatever. Titular. 103 credits on this gentleman's resume, starting in 1989 with a little film called Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child.
Your favorite of the Nightmare on Elm Street
He's
films.
Super Freddy.
What? No,
Monster
really?
Man is Super Freddy.
Well, I remember his interview.
Yeah.
Because he was a former football player. And yeah, no, he's a funny dude.
Oh, yeah.
Because he also was the body double during the opening sex scene where like the bodies are like bumping and there's sweat all over. And he was like, hey, and about a bad way to make a living. I was just being sprayed with water and rubbing up against a supermodel all day.
So that's his first credit in 89. Then he does Silk Stockings in 93.
Because who didn't?
The Fantastic Four, Roger Corman's Fantastic Four in 94.
Oh, I bet he played the Thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
He does Ice in 94, Cyborg 3, The Recycler in 94, Cage 2 in 94, The Bold and the Beautiful, Best of the Best 3, No Turning Back, Babylon 5, Family Matters, Drew Carey Show, Star Trek Voyager, Murphy Brown, Diagnosis Murder, Arliss, Whatever It Takes, The X-Files, LA Heat, Martial Law TV series, VIP.
So Nightmare on Elm Street 5 was just the beginning of him becoming like a very consistent muscle character actor.
Yeah.
Nice.
He killed it on TV because he does Buffy in 2000, Love Her Madly 2000, Nash Bridges, Town and Country, Grounded for Life, Charmed, Undisputed, Men in Black 2, Master of Disguise, Black Mass 2, Spy Mate.
Spy Mate.
Yes, the monkey spy movie. Primate, Spy Mate.
I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah, you should be. So then he does Monster Man in 2003, appears on the OC in 05, Desperate Housewives in 05, The Hills Have Eyes remake in 2006 where he plays Pluto, or no, Papa Jupiter, excuse me.
Oh, okay.
And then he plays him again in Hills Have Eyes 2 remake. My Name is Earl 2006, Days of Our Lives 2010, Chain Letter in 2010, House 2011, 2.5 Men 2011, appeared on Shameless in 2012, and most recently in 2015 he did a movie called Kids vs. Monsters.
I wonder if he played a kid or a monster.
I wonder too.
No, wow. Let's give it up for, what was it, Michael Bailey Smith? Man, I mean, talk about a fucking career, homie.
Getting started with Super Freddy too. I was so happy.
Oh, well, I remember in the Never Sleep Again documentary, he mentioned he was a football player, and then that was his first time on a movie.
Yeah.
But I had no idea he'd went on to just friggin' own being the
credits.
big monstery guy, because he is huge.
He is perfect for it. So Monster Man is currently available, as we've already said, on Amazon Prime right now. You can also rent or buy it wherever you get your VOD from. And the DVD from Lionsgate is still pretty accessible, too.
Yeah, you might pay a little bit more than you'd expect for a DVD, but not much.
Not much. So what was your first time watching Monster Man?
At some point in my teenage bedroom, Showtime broadcast it directly into my room.
Yeah.
And this was when the internet wasn't what it is today. You had it, but you would if you saw a movie on cable, a horror movie, you would be like, "Oh, I should see if it's in Fango."
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, there was a Fango cover for Monster Man.
There was, yeah.
I'm almost certain. So Dave's gonna check.
Let me research. You keep going.
Yeah, I thought you did research before the show, but I was mistaken. I'm almost certain there's a Monster Man cover for Fangoria magazine.
Let's find out. Let's see. There's Hellraiser, Hollow Man, Prince of Darkness.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it probably was featured in there, but I don't know if it would have got the cover.
I could have sworn they put the Monster Man on the cover, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of me hallucinating. But no, so I legitimately must have seen the movie more than 10 times, because even decades later, I was remembering so much of the goddamn movie.
Yeah.
And it was very influential on me, because I had never up to that point seen like what was basically a teen road trip movie turned into an ultra violent gore fest.
Yeah.
And it is an ultra violent gore fest.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And I'm not a constant celebrator of ultra violent gore fests.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, if you can't do much better if you want an ultra violent gore fest than Monster Man. So that is how I saw it. And then for years, the only person I knew who ever talked about it was Andrew, my buddy Andrew Shearer.
Yeah.
He was the only person who knew Monster Man. Everybody else seemed to just memory hole it. Which, I mean, does happen with these movies where they just come out on tape, they come out on DVD, they hit cable for a minute, and then they just fuck off. That's a similar thing happened with King of the Ants, the first Asylum movie, the people who eventually would bring you Sharknado. It was their first feature film. It had George Wendt in it. It was directed by Stuart Gordon. That was another one that when I finally wanted to sit down and watch it again, I had to buy the DVD.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, but that's another movie where I'm like, I keep telling people, I'm like, if you get a hold of that movie, you won't believe how good it is.
Yeah.
So Monster Man, yeah, I've loved it for a very long time. I feel like it's been spiritually with me for a very long time.
Yeah.
But the fact that when one of the grossest scenes was about to happen, Like literally cut to the interior of the room and I went, oh God. Like I knew
You knew what was coming.
everything. It was so weird.
Yep.
So weird. I really must have watched it 20 sometimes.
Yeah. No.
What about you, Dave?
So Monster Man was a later discovery for me. So the movie, like I said, came out in 2003. I probably found it right about 2009 because I can pinpoint it specifically because I was working at Roundabout Books, the local bookstore in my town, and we had a generous DVD section back then. I mean, they still do now too, but like we would have people bring stuff in. I've gotten a lot of cool things from that store, and one of the titles that came in one day was Monster Man, and I picked it up and I read the rating, and this is in my edgelord period, so 2009. I would have been
yesterday.
Yes, to yesterday. But this is my edgelord period, so like I would have been a sophomore in high school, and I was into the violent horror movies. Give me the gore, give me the violence, give me the slashers. That's what I was after a lot.
Yeah, and you said bro a lot.
Yeah, I said bro a lot. I would go to Walmart on new release day and basically walk out with any Anchor Bay or Lionsgate title if it fit something that looked like I might like. So I took Monster Man home, watched it, and I remember really enjoying it, but the reason that I can pinpoint the exact time of it is because it reminded me a lot of The Hills Run Red from 2009.
Okay, yeah.
And so that was one of the last memories I have with it. So I always liked the movie, and I'd only seen it like maybe another time or so, like on TV or whatnot after. I kept my DVD, still have it to this day. And it wasn't until about like I said, about the beginning of this year that I revisited it, and I had a great time with it. But then even more so just this time now, I had even more of a better time with it. It's such a time capsule of early 2000s extreme horror.
Oh, yeah, but it must have been luck because it's so early in that time period. I can't imagine that he must have had a script. The director must have had that screenplay sitting around.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, now's the time to make that.
Yeah.
Like, let's go make that right now.
Let's go make it right now.
Because it's very early. I mean, when did Saw come out?
Saw would have been 2000. Was it 2003?
Was it 03 or 04?
Let me check. I think it's 2003.
Wow.
though.
Could you learn how to type?
2004.
Okay, so it was pre-Saw.
Yeah.
So that's saying something.
Yeah, because Saw is 2004, Saw 2 is 2005, and then basically from that point on, it's one every year.
Yeah, and that's that was the beginning of what we call the torture porn era, which was basically an escapism era from after 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
So Monster Man was kind of like perfect timing.
Yeah. No, it absolutely was. So I think what I honestly loved about it most though was it was just the simple. It had a simple setting of any horror film that you'd want, where it's like here's your people, they're on a road trip, here's the woods, everything's unpredictable, and there's this giant monster in this giant monster truck. Like, I mean, what more couldn't you like?
I just remember the first time I was watching it. I remember because I feel so old. I remember we were talking about this before the show.
Yeah.
How exciting it was when your remote for the TV could pull up a thingy and tell you what was currently playing.
Yeah.
And you could go through. When it started, you could only go about 8 hours into the future.
Oh my gosh.
So if you wanted to set a reminder, because this was before DVR,
Yeah.
unless you were paying out the ass for TiVo.
Yeah.
So if you wanted a reminder, you might be able to get 12 hours ahead on some channels.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember seeing the title Monster Man and being like, hell yeah, brother. So I watch it, and when this monster truck just starts chasing after them, I'm like, what the hell is this? Also, I think it might have ended up on Showtime On Demand. I might have years later watched it multiple times on there as well.
I could absolutely see that.
Yeah, it was a cable mainstay, but it definitely the monster truck scenes definitely left a bit of a WTF.
Yeah.
That kind of pulled you in.
Yeah.
And the idea that the monster truck was used to capture people to then torture and experiment on them.
Yeah.
There's just so much going on.
Oh, there's so much.
So much. And it's all just gooey, sticky fun.
Well, and probably why I latched onto it so hard was because at this point in my movie fandom, I was really, really into Breakdown, because Breakdown I caught on USA one day. Like I was
the Kurt Russell movie. Yeah. It's
I just caught that on USA one day, and I remember just sitting there the entire time in awe of just how great this movie was. So I think that's also why I resonated with it, because I was like, oh, it's like a horror version of Breakdown.
Yeah, because Breakdown is so charming.
So charming. Yeah.
Well, when you were a kid, did you go on a lot of road trips?
Fair amount. More so the road trips that I had were largely with Dad for like our Michigan trip and whatnot. And usually when we would go to Florida as a family, we would stick to the highway and whatnot, but there were times we would take back roads out because it was just fun to look at the views.
David, literally Interstate 75, the closest interstate to where we're sitting right now, goes all the way to Florida.
All the way to Florida.
So, like, I remember I used to joke when I go to Georgia, it'd be like, get on Interstate 75 for 485 miles. You know, that's just the way it goes. So I was just curious because I was road tripping all the time when I was a kid because I had at least twice a year I had to go to New Hampshire, which is about 14 hours. And it kind of gave me an affinity for the road. And then movies that take place on the road, I would also have an affinity for because there's something about when you're on the road, when you're on the highway, especially when you're somewhere you've never been, you don't know what's coming up next.
Yeah.
You know, there's that fun game where it's like, your gas tank is getting low and you don't stop at that place. Before smartphones, you didn't know when the next one was.
You took a risk.
You would guess.
Yeah.
You would hope that you were right. Same thing with your bladder. You would hope that you would hope that there would be another place to pee, but of course, you know, you could pee in a field, but that field ain't gonna have any gasoline in it. So
it ain't.
But no, so that I was just curious about if you went on a lot of road trips because road trip movies are fun as hell.
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. So you ready to get into Monster Man?
Perhaps.
All right, well, let's break down Monster Man. So we open with a shot of a guy who finds himself in a vice and he's absolutely terrified. We see
guys, not a figurative vice.
No. Head's in a vice.
Literally in a steel vice.
Yes, head is in a vice, and we see a gloved hand tightening it. He's screaming, and suddenly the vice tightens, and we get the impression that the man is dead.
The impression. By his head.
As we hear the crunching and
splattering.
Yeah, you know. The impression.
We get the idea that he might have died.
For the record, when we get to the twist of the movie, like, it's possible he is still alive.
Okay, that's a fair point. I'll give you that one.
So we meet Adam driving across country in his 1970 Chevrolet, and he is spooked by his buddy in the backseat, but we don't know it's his buddy because his buddy rises out of the backseat wearing a white mask and like just starts reaching for him.
And a knife.
And a knife. Yeah, and a knife. He pulls
a knife you can pretty much tell was fake right away.
Yeah, he pulls a Shelly from Friday the 13th Part 3.
My whole world's in this backpack.
So he gets him to pull off to the side, and he's still got the mask on, and that's when he reveals that it's Harley. And we find out that Adam is going across country because he's going to try to stop Betty Ann, his ex-girlfriend or the girl he loved, from getting married because he wants to tell her how he feels.
Gay.
So that's when Harley gets back in the car with them, and or he tries to get back in the car. Adam pushes him out of the way, throws him to the side. Harley ends up getting the spare key from his hide key, and they end up resuming on the road. And that's when, you know, he tells him about his plan to tell Betty Ann how he feels, and Harley is not in for this at all.
One of the things I like is they don't actually really lean into why he hates Harley the initial time.
Yeah.
It's just he's like, I told you we'd never be friends again. And he's about to leave Harley on the side of the road in the desert.
Yeah.
Like, that's how mad he is, but of course Harley finds his hide key and gets back into the car.
Yeah.
So, but there's already this dichotomy of like a weary friendship.
Yeah.
It's very clear that Harley is the outgoing, loud, and boisterous friend.
He is the 2000s friend.
Well, I mean, but our main character, what was his name again?
Adam.
Adam is literally the actor who played the nerd on everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally like, he was the nerdy son in every TV commercial. He was on every sitcom as like a side character. So these guys are like a perfect example of that 2000s teen dichotomy.
Well, and he plays the Ducky role in not another teen movie. So I mean, yeah, they're absolutely typecast.
Oh my God,
100%.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. It's so stereotypical. It's almost not fun, except that he is actually a pretty good actor.
He's a good actor, yes.
Yeah, no, he actually does a really good job.
So Harley's going through his wallet, pulls out a picture, and he laughs because he still has Betty Ann's picture. And not only does he still have it, but it's also laminated.
Yeah, I love that he goes, this is laminated.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments in the movie where you get the joke, but then there's little extra... I don't know if they are, but they feel improvised moments.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, oh my God, you still have a picture of it in your wallet. It's laminated. He's like, why would you laminate it? Like, it's lots of stuff like that.
Because this leads to him calling him a wussy, and then we have a scene where Harley gets his head basically viced himself in Adam's car window as he's driving down the road because he's pushing the lever up.
Which I love that sequence because it shows that Adam has a mean streak. Because because he gets stuck in the window and is crushing his head, and he's like, "Say I'm not a wussy," and he's like, "You're a total wussy."
Like, he pushes it again.
Until he's like actually crushing his throat, and he's like, "You're not a wussy."
And just as this happens, a black hearse with tinted window drives alongside them, and it holds their position next to them for like a good, like, solid minute.
Yeah, it paces them.
Yeah,
it pulls up right next to them, driving in the wrong side of the highway.
Yep.
And I love this because we're all laughing and chuckling at Harley being bombastic and offensive and stupid. I mean, honestly, the only thing he didn't do constantly that I was kind of surprised was he doesn't drop the F slur all the time.
He doesn't, yeah.
That was like the most restrained part of Harley.
Yeah.
But they're like, ha ha ha, and then all of a sudden it's just this black hearse is right next to them. They both just look at it like,
what's going on?
Why is that? Why is that there?
Yeah.
But it's a great break in the humor to remind you, like, oh yeah, you sat down to watch Monster Man, not National Lampoon's Two Bros Get Laid, the movie or something.
Oh,
you know?
and I think it's worth saying too that, like, if you want to set a tone for your horror film right away, put a mysterious hearse in it, because like Burnt Offerings has a great one.
Oh yeah, I love that.
We talked about Dead End already.
Yeah,
which will probably
the hearse is like a character in that one. Yeah,
I think it's one of those tropes that you could say it's played out in a sense of this point in horror, because there's so many movies I can name with it, but at the same time it's still effective, and I still love that trope.
It's hearses are a trope in the way graveyards are a trope.
Yeah, I guess trope's not the right word. It's
literally directly tied to death.
To death, yes.
So, I mean, yeah.
So down the road a ways, Adam and Harley stop off at a bar, and Harley is questioning their friendship over Betty Ann, and this is also when we kind of get a taste of Harley and his love of the locals, because they have a monster truck rally commercial on the TV, and he's bashing both the monster truck rally, the locals, and the bar. All in eyesight and earshot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I had an experience like fucking this. I was driving through the South when I was 18 years old with a buddy of mine. And I get along with pretty much everybody. But holy crap. We're sitting in this like hole in the wall. And look, I'm 18.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the Southern food hole in the wall experience.
Yeah.
I wanted the, baby's BBQ experience, right? So I'm the dumbass who says, oh, let's not eat right off the truck stop. Let's go to the friggin' hole in the wall. And we're sitting there waiting for our food, or maybe we hadn't ordered yet. And my friend, who is sheltered, just goes like, there are a lot of rednecks in here.
Oh,
and I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, first of all, that's just shitty.
Yeah.
No one's being rude to us.
Yeah.
Like, they literally said, like, how are you doing? Why don't you sit over there? We'll get you something to eat. Like, there are 2 times in my life I drove through the South, and I love the South. I'm not just saying that to cope. I mean, like, I enjoy the food, I enjoy the hospitality, I enjoy the people, but I have driven through the South twice with 2 of the most miserable people. One was my buddy, who I'm not going to name because I don't want to be a dickhead, because he's grown up a lot. And the other, I won't name her either.
Yeah.
But they just hated every second of it.
Ugh.
And they were rude everywhere we went. And then they would complain about how rude everybody else was.
Oh my God.
And
that reminds me.
Oh no, what?
Do you remember that movie Savage Harvest? That proto slasher that you got from Kino.
Oh yeah, the Eric Stanzi film. Yeah, of course.
So there's that scene where they go into that bar, and that one character's gay, and like you think that like it's gonna be exactly like the Southerners attack the gay person. No, the gay guy just starts.
That's not Savage Harvest.
Or Savage.
Savage Weekend.
Yeah.
That is the weirdest moment. I enjoyed Savage Weekend a lot.
Savage Weekend's good.
But literally, they walk into this redneck bar, and the gay character is like, you're like, oh, I hope there's not going to be any problems. Then he walks in and he goes, hey, you bunch of inbred hicks, I'm gay. What do you think about it?
Just starts kicking their asses. Unprompted.
Well, for the record, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a B movie. Why does he walk in and just start beating the hell out of everybody? But Savage Weekend is a trip.
It's absolutely worth a watch.
But no, so we got out of there alive mainly because I, the weirdo with the long hair and the Hawaiian shirt, looked at the people who were staring and smiled.
Yeah.
Like a smile, like, sorry, like, why is he an ass? And then I did turn to him and go like, why are you being a dick?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you being a dick? But all I could think was like, I am going to eat this barbecue so fast, wipe my mouth with a piece of bread, and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Because you're scaring me.
Yeah.
And the other was I was driving through with this chick. We were not dating or anything, but we were driving through the South, and everywhere we went, she was just rude, and then would complain about how rude everybody was. And then when I said, like, I don't know, I find people are very polite in the South, she was like, well, they're saying nice things, but they're thinking mean things. And I turned to her and I was like, that's harder to do.
Yeah.
People aren't polite if they're nice to you because they like you.
Yeah.
They're polite if they're nice to you even though they hate you. That's politeness. That's impressive. If to your face they're just like, how are you? Good to see you. Have a great day. And then when they're like, oh, I'm glad they're gone. It's like, I'll never be offended.
Yeah.
I got to be treated nicely.
Yeah.
Now, if they spit in your food or something, which they probably did because my friend was such a jackass.
I can see that.
Look, I've traveled the country. I've been around some places. That was so fucking scary. I was 18 years old. I was like, well, time for my first serious fist fight.
Yeah.
Yay. Although actually, like, part of me was like, if they come over and start pounding on my buddy, I'm going to join them. I'm just going to start kicking him too.
I mean, you could also do the Penn Jillette method where you just poured the shake that you ordered on yourself.
Oh, yeah, pour it on your own head.
Yeah.
Honestly, that might have diffused the situation. But I just had to get that across because that scene reminds me so much of just a few years later in my own life. Because I was 18 in 2005. So 2 years after I've seen this movie, I'm driving through the South, having a wonderful time. And then my friend, the weirdest thing though, that was a friend who was very shy. So he wasn't like, I'm just blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, he wasn't a Harley type.
He sat down and was like, looking, he was like, I'll have this and this. And then like when the lady walked away, he was like, there are a lot of rednecks here. Like he was just,
yeah.
Anyway,
I get that.
Back to the film.
So naturally, he gets upset about Harley's crass comments, and they shortly leave after that. And that's when Harley tells Adam that, he lives through him. Like, I'm the asshole friend. You're the dweeb, and
you live vicariously
through me. Yeah. So that's when Adam, seeing Roadkill, uses his turn signal to avoid it, even though there's no other cars on the road.
And the way it's directed is perfect. He sees the Roadkill, click, click, click. Vroom, vroom. And he goes, see, it's shit like that. You used your turn signal to pass some Roadkill. There's no cars anywhere in sight.
Yeah. So as they drive away, we see a hand come out and grab the Roadkill off the road, which may come back later.
Well, and the hand is like got dirty leather gloves and fucked up fingernails.
Same hand that we saw tighten the vice in the beginning of the movie.
Exactly.
So it's our just might be our monster man.
I mean, do you think there's a monster man in this picture?
There could be.
Okay.
So Harley questions Adam's plan to get Betty Ann back right as an insane monster truck starts driving and tailing them right behind, driving crazy and like coming right up on him.
And this is not. It looks like a homemade monster truck.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have a normal cab. It looks more like a tank.
It reminds me of it's like Death Proof-esque with the style of the car, the top and everything, but it's just got the straight up monster truck wheels.
But the one thing about this truck that fascinated me even as a kid watching it was when they're driving behind him, when they would speed up suddenly, it has this little bumper piece on the bottom to knock your car around.
Yeah.
And then where the body it meets. And when it would speed up, it looked like a mouth biting at you.
Yeah.
Like it looked like it was growling and biting like a lion.
And they definitely used the sound design in this part really, really cool.
Yeah. But I remember even as a kid, I thought it was CGI or something. Because I was like, how did they do that? Because it really looks like it's trying to bite their car.
Yeah.
It's such a cool
moment.
Cool
visual.
Yeah.
So that's when, they're trying to basically get the car to pass, which I love that. They're like, go around us.
That's after Harley's flipped it off.
Oh, yeah, flipped it off. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he did one of my favorites. He held up his hand and went, you know what this is?
Yeah.
A flock of these. And flipped his middle finger.
So they're trying to get the truck to pass. The truck is not having it and tries to drive them off the road, narrowly missing another car before they stop. And that's when the two of them kind of get into a little bit of a fight. They wrestle a little bit, and then, they decide that they're going to walk down the road a little bit.
Their fight is so funny.
Yes, it is.
Because it's a montage, basically.
Yeah.
So the camera's locked in one position, but they keep changing. And at one point, he has him in a pro wrestling Boston Crab. And he's like, ah! And of course, because Harley is Harley.
Yep.
What ends the fight is he has Adam in a head scissors, and then and you think it's gonna be another cutaway, but then he goes, I'm gonna fart. And he goes, okay, I give up. And then when he lets go, he's like, good choice, because I'd have done it.
So they're walking down the road a little bit, and they come across a memoriam cross from an accident, and Harley is like, what's that? And Adam's like, really? Like, you don't know what that is?
Yeah, because he's an anthropology major.
Yeah,
He's
anthropology
like,
major.
Anthropology major. It meant somebody died.
Yeah. So Adam believes someone is coming after them, but Harley then catches sight of an RV off to the side of them, and they approach it because they need to get gas for the car, and we, as the viewers, see that there's blood on the inside of the window.
Yeah, what they do is they show the inside and then let us see through the window them walking up. So we don't just see blood. We eventually see a headless
corpse just seated in there because they want to siphon fuel from it. So that's when Harley goes in and grabs a cup and a straw out of the cup holder, and the corpse is right behind him. So they don't see the corpse at all. And he goes to the tank and he starts putting the straw in and sucking it out. And Adam starts laughing, and Harley is then told that he's been sucking from the septic tank.
Yeah, it's so
pretty gross. Pretty gross. So he gets
he's
pissed.
Like, you knew?
Yeah, he gets pissed, starts chasing him.
Yeah, you made me laugh.
And that's when we see the corpse inside the camper, but also we pull back and see that there are tire tracks that have made a pentagram all around this RV that they're inside.
One of the coolest visuals of the whole film.
Absolutely
Just
is.
tire marks that make a perfect pentagram.
Yeah.
And that's at that moment when you know, like, okay, some shit is
about to go down.
Really going down.
Yeah.
I wonder if that the dead body in there might have been the guy who got his head viced.
Oh, I didn't think about that. It absolutely is. Yeah.
Because his head's like basically
that would make
gone.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that one of the things I love, so I'm not a huge fan of horror comedies.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of very funny horror movies.
Yeah.
And there is a difference. A horror comedy, the horror is funny. That's to me, anyway, that's my opinion on it. As to where a very funny horror movie, there's just a lot of funny characters, but there's a lot of dead serious stuff.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of examples of that. Like, I would say Evil Dead 2 is a horror comedy.
Yeah.
But then I would say Return to the Living Dead is a funny horror movie.
And I would call Student Bodies absolutely a horror comedy.
Oh, God, yes.
And then,
Student Bodies. Yeah,
and then
100%.
Like, yeah, I mean, Mick Garris had a quote once that it was basically like, it's really easy to shoot, or it's really tough to shoot a horror comedy. It's really easy to shoot a horror film with comedic bits.
And I think it doesn't take away from the fear.
Yeah.
The fear element. Like Tucker and Dale, horror comedy.
Yeah.
And a good one. But, there are a lot of examples. But my point is, so we just had this scene where these guys are wrestling and they stop wrestling because the guy says he'll fart in his face.
Yeah.
Then they go over here. We have a shit joke.
Yep.
Then they walk away going, blah, 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 blah. And we pull back and it's like severed head, giant pentagram. You're fucked.
And they're wrestling in the giant pentagram because he sucked the shit.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, that's such a great example of having a horror movie with lots of funny stuff in it, is that funny stuff can lull you into a sense of security.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you're like, right, vicious, violent horror movie.
That is what
That's where we're at.
So down the road, after they got their gas, they're driving along and they see a female hitchhiker that Harley shouts at as they drive past, because one thing I forgot to mention is Harley brings up Citizen Kane and Rosebud specifically.
Yeah, he brings up the urban legend. I believe it's an urban legend.
Yeah.
That Rosebud was a reference to one of, what's his name?
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles' girlfriend's vagina.
Yep.
So, sorry, pardon my Spanish.
Yeah.
But so that's like the joke. And the great thing is, so they're driving past this chick and she is just 2002 Hot Topic sex.
Oh yeah.
That is what she is. She's wearing a tiny mini skirt. She's wearing a black bra with a barely covering it. I don't even know what you call it. It's not a top. You can see through. It's a mesh top, I guess. It's like a mesh blouse, but it's only buttoned at the top. So her midriff, remember, the 2000s were the era of the midriff.
Yes, it was.
I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember that.
I remember. With her navel ring, which he comments on, he says, like, the navel ring means she'll do unspeakable things. and as they drive by, of course, Adam is like, we're not picking up a hitchhiker. I was actually shocked they didn't do the line that's in like every movie where it's like, horror movies start like this.
Way.
And then somebody goes, so do porno movies.
Detroit Rock City, that's one of my favorites. Hey, maybe pornos will start like that too.
No, it's a great line. But as they drive past, though, I love that once they've accepted that they're not picking her up, Harley sticks his head out and in slow motion goes, Rosebud! Like,
she doesn't even know what to think. Like, she gets almost like fed up with it.
But she does like a pouty, like, oh, because they walk away and she kicks the dirt and they keep driving down the highway. Oh, and I forgot to mention platform stiletto, or platform heels rather. She is just like literally a walking hot topic sex dream.
Yep.
And it is very. And the jelly bracelets.
And
I
the
noticed
jelly
toward the end of the
bracelets that you
movie.
noticed,
I was like, oh my gosh, she's wearing black jelly bracelets. That was. Hold on. Were you around for the fucking insanity about the jelly bracelets needing to be banned from schools?
Was it because there was association with them of the colors?
Yeah, because parents are perverts.
Yep, I remember this. Oh, I remember this.
No, let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Parents are perverts, and they tend to believe the most twisted stuff about their kids. It's so weird because my generation got hit really hard about this whole jelly bracelet thing. So basically, there was this belief, an urban legend, that was circulated by chain letters, that if your daughter was wearing certain colored bracelets, it signified that she had either done certain sex acts or was willing to do certain sex acts. And that was her way of broadcasting it to everybody.
Yep.
Because apparently parents, who by the way, they lived through the goddamn 60s. They think that the fucking 2000s kids are Studio 64 or some shit. No, we're all scared of each other. We're all, just hoping for that one day we'll get that really dry hand job that we've been dreaming about our whole lives. They think that so the final version of it, when they finally banned the jelly bracelets from my school, was the version that got to my school was that when girls wear those bracelets, all boys have to do is walk up and snap one. And if they rip it off, the girl now owes them the sex act.
Yeah.
So now we're diving into something parents have always been obsessed with, which is this idea that children who are teenagers who are generally scared of sex, generally scared of the opposite sex, generally nervous for a while, are just complete hedonists who are willing to go have sex based on pulling on a bracelet.
Which I remember, do you remember if it was Grounded for Life that did the episode where the daughter was getting into it and the mom likes to look at the bracelet, so she gets like all the colors?
I do think so.
I can't remember if it's Grounded for Life or Still Standing.
That sounds like Grounded for Life.
It's either that or Still Standing. I think it might be Still Standing with Jamie Gertz.
I never saw that one.
Oh, God. Real quick, one of my favorite episodes is Still Standing.
Oh boy.
It's the heavy guy that was in Full Monty and Knight's Tale. I can't think of his name, but he's the star of it, and Jamie Gertz is his wife. There's an episode though where Kevin Nealon's their neighbor, and they think that he doesn't like them because apparently he's had parties and has invited them. So they come home one day and they see all these cars up front of his house, and they're like, that son of a bitch didn't invite us again. So they get eggs and start egging his house. They cut inside of Nealon's house. He's doing a freaking it's a funeral.
It's a wake.
It's a wake. It's a wake for a grandmother.
That's funny as hell. That's
so
really
eggs
good.
just start hitting the window. God damn, I love that show. But no, I remember there's an episode where they do that. But I think it's Still Standing. So if you could find that show.
But I remember the whole jelly bracelets thing, and the big thing was if a girl was wearing black jelly bracelets, that meant she went all the way.
I remember that too. Yep.
How stupid.
What a time to be alive. So after they pass the hitchhiker, they stop at a rest area restroom down the road a few ways, and he exits out of the car, and that's when we see the monster truck.
Yeah.
Is parked right there. So he goes into the bathroom, and the monster man enters the bathroom, and he's banging on the door. Harley is asleep in the car, but he wakes up and takes notice of the monster truck. And Adam's door is rattled a few seconds before the monster man just goes in the next stall, which, by the way, the next stall also has a bunch of writing and a glory hole in it.
Yeah, this bathroom makes the bathroom in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 look like a pilot gas station.
Yeah, it does. It does.
That's a joke for you road-weary bastards.
So he, by this point, he's also put a piece of toilet paper into the glory hole, but he takes it away to get a peek at the monster man. Meanwhile, outside, Harley has decided to take a piss in the monster man's cab.
Because Harley is the man of the people.
He is the man of the people.
And he's just standing over the top with the door open, just whizzing right into it.
Right into it. So Adam comes out, and he's pissed by seeing Harley pissing in the back of it.
No, the truck was pissed.
The truck was pissed. Yeah, the truck was pissed in. So they race back to their car as Adam gives him hell, telling him the guy didn't even look human. Harley assures him that he didn't see him and that they won't notice anything and that they're in the clear. And that's when Harley notices that Adam has had this ornament on his antenna that's like a Jack-in-the-Box face, isn't it?
It looks like a Jack-in-the-Box face. It's a face made out of a ping pong ball.
Yeah, and it's crushed now. And he's like, was that like that before? So they clearly now have somebody onto them. So that's when Harley assures them, like everything's fine, let's just stop for the night. So they get a hotel room for the night, and they see a news report about the RV that they stopped at, finding the pentagram and the body inside.
Yeah, so now they know that they were like inches from a dead body.
Yeah. So Adam begins to freak out about the day's events, and he wants to call the police, but Harley tells him, what are we going to tell him? Like,
We didn't see
that we
anything.
suspect that this guy and everything, we just need to keep moving. Don't worry about it. We'll keep going. So later that night, Adam is awoken because he's hearing whispering of somebody saying, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you, which is revealed to be Harley, who's having a sex dream.
Yeah, because it gets Harley, and he's like, I'm going to get you, baby.
I'm going to get you, baby.
Yeah.
So he goes back to sleep, but however,
God, this scene.
wakes up a few short minutes later, and he is feeling around his bed, and we just see that there is like bloody fur on top of him. They are then revealed to be covered both in roadkill.
Yes, and then the scene takes a direction that I can only golf clap.
It is 2000s AF because Harley's still in the midst of his sex dream, picks up his roadkill,
starts touching it, and wow, this is gonna be a two vagina show.
Yes.
I guess in his dream thinks that it is a vagina.
Yes.
So he begins playing with it, touching it, brings it up to his face. It is so gross.
It's so gross. We don't have to film it. You get the rest.
No, Dave. In detail, please.
No.
Every stroke, every lick. But this was the scene. This was the scene, though, where I turned to Dave and went, shit, I remember this movie completely.
Yeah.
Because the moment it cut to them in the hotel room, I went, oh
God. So they both freak out. They flee the motel. They're back on the road, and Adam stops down the road as it's revealed their tires have also been slashed now. So suddenly somebody rises out of the back of their car, causing them to get out of the car and flee, and it's revealed to be the hitchhiker, who is named Sarah. And she says, oh, sorry, guys, I was just crashing in your car.
Yeah, which, I mean, we were both like, what? Like, why is that okay? I guess, if you look into the context, she's clearly a drifter.
Yeah.
So I guess she's like, what? I needed
a place
shelter
to sleep,
and I don't have anything. I mean, remember, and also like, that bitch can't even have an ID on her. Because where would she? Well, there's only one place she could put it.
Yeah.
Nature's pocket.
So they introduce each other as Sarah tells them that she's heading anywhere but here, and she sizes up Harley as an asshole. She immediately figures out that Harley's
wow, she must be really good at reading people.
Yeah, right?
Because that's a subtle one to figure out.
And Adam as the strong, silent type. So he comments on her root beer colored eyes, which wins her over. So the next morning, Adam phones the police, reporting the monster truck anonymously, and Harley tells Adam that this is his moment to pop his cherry with Sarah, because at this point they're outside the car. Sarah is sleeping.
I love this sequence.
Yeah, she's faking sleeping in the car, and that's when Harley just goes into this whole thing about how she could be the one to save him at this point and basically get him prepared for Betty Ann.
The reason I love this scene is because most of the scene, although they cut to a couple of different shots, they show her in the foreground asleep, and then they are shot through the window of the car.
Yeah.
So as they're talking, you can see that she's awake. You can see her kind of chuckle to herself when they say something really weird or funny. It makes it very clear she's awake, so that then it's a little less creepy when Harley reaches in, basically
tries to grope her.
He's going to grope her in her sleep, and he's like, she'll never know she's asleep. But I think that it was a plan.
Oh yeah,
because as he grabs Harley's hand to stop him,
he fights him off.
Harley pulls his hand away and shoves his hand right onto her breast. But then she throws a curveball.
Yeah.
Because we know she's awake.
She's awake.
She just moans and goes, oh, Adam, I love the way you touch me. And then Harley's like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, he's pissed. So he's pissed now, and Adam fights Harley off, and that's when Sarah responds happy. Harley gives Adam hell about the facts that she likes him, bringing up how Betty Ann also slept with Harley.
Yeah,
the reveal
and now
is there.
We know one of the big divides between them, but it also proves that Harley is kind of as pathetic as Adam.
Yeah.
Because now Harley is kind of thinking, maybe I love Betty Ann too.
Well, and he says, you couldn't seal the deal with her, so I had to, and this pisses Adams off, and, that's when he calls him a wussy again. So then they try to reason with Sarah, because Sarah's woken up by this point, and she's like, I can't stand you two fighting, so, let's figure this out. So she plants a big kiss on Harley.
Yeah, which turns into a quick, short make-out grope fest.
Yep. And then that's when she goes to Adam, and Adam takes his turn, but he decides to kiss her on the neck, and we just see.
She explains first that the goal of this is not just to be as pointless as challengers. the goal is whoever turns her on the most is the person she's actually into.
Yeah.
But then you're right. Then Adam goes for the unexpected move. He kisses her gently on the nape of her neck,
and she loves it.
And she loves it.
We see a little hand twirl.
Yeah, her hand stretches and tenses and stuff. It's a very sweet scene, actually.
So that's when she confesses about fake sleeping so she could teach Harley a lesson, and she even goes further with that lesson because Harley is now asleep in the car at this point, and she writes "a-hole" on his forehead.
Yes, and which, I mean...
Literally a-hole, not asshole.
No, not asshole, a-hole.
Dash hole.
Which was honestly smart. They were probably thinking about when it would play on basic cable.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to have to... blur it.
Yeah.
So
later, the three stop off at another bar, and that's when Adam notices that everybody at this bar is missing a limb, whether it's a leg or an arm.
And I gotta say, this is one part of the film that bothered me as a young man and still bothers me. They hired a ton of who I would believe are real amputees, which is great because amputee actors deserve to work just as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
But the makeup they put on the stumps,
it's gross.
They're heinous looking.
Yeah.
They're just like, they all look like they're kind of infected and not healed properly.
I'm not trying to be this guy, but I mean,
be this guy.
Given the setting, it could be just poor medical practice.
Well, I think they're just trying to gross us out because we're watching a gross horror movie.
Yeah.
But you heard it, everybody. Dave says if you live in the country, you suck.
I think Michael Davis was taking a stand on the health system with this film.
Healthcare system. Okay. Okay. I like that.
So,
I'll buy it.
One of the patrons of the bar tries to get in a dance with Sarah, and Adam, tries to brush him off. He gets shoved down, and Sarah quickly teaches this guy a lesson because she goes to go, basically watch my hands and then kicks him right in the balls.
Yeah, she's like, watch these hands and not my foot, and then she just kicks him right in the nuts.
So good.
But then I love that after they're all laughing at it, Harley just walks and goes, yeah, bitch, and then just punches him right in the face. Sucker punches him right in the head.
Right in the face.
Away. Oh, God.
So back in their hotel room, Adam confesses to Sarah that he likes her, and Sarah tells him that she's not looking for a commitment, but maybe Betty Ann would appreciate a guy with a little bit more experience.
Well, this is after they've ditched Harley in his own room.
Yeah.
They kind of committed a coup de grace.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize he was going to be alone in his room while they're in theirs. But yes, she makes a very strong lawyerly point about the benefits, the pros and cons
of experience.
I would have preferred a PowerPoint presentation.
No, I mean,
But she still made a good argument.
Still made a good point. So they start making out, and Adam starts getting a nosebleed, and it doesn't deter Sarah at all because she gets a little blood on her face. He's got blood coming from his nose, and she actually licks it at one point.
Well, a little bit.
A little
barely.
bit. So he wipes the blood off his nose, and that's when we get into some nice 2000s coitus.
Yeah, some no nudity sex.
No nudity sex. So they're interrupted, though, by screaming from the woods as they rush out of their hotel. They go into the woods, and that's when they find the patron that tried to dance with Sarah earlier pleading for his life as the Monster Man is back with his truck, which runs over his legs, crushing them.
Which is shocking enough, but then when it backs up and comes back forward, it shatters his head.
Crushes his...
into nothing.
Nothing. So the truck opens a slide, and that's when we get another shot of the Monster Man, so they run off screaming again. The next morning, they're talking to a police officer, played by Robert S. Schaefer, better known as Bob Vance of Vance Refrigeration.
Yeah, or Psycho Cop. Or Fred Olin Ray's cousin.
Yes, that's also true.
So I love this scene, not just because the cop is super funny, but I love this scene because this scene makes sure that the movie's not too stupid.
Yeah.
Because after what they witnessed, it would be very easy to be like, well, maybe they just run away. They'd call the police.
They would absolutely call the police.
They witnessed a fucking cold-blooded murder.
Yeah.
They would call the police. So I love that whole sequence because it really kind of, it grounds us again before the movie goes completely off the rails, which it is very soon.
And it also brings up the roadkill in the hotel room. He's like, I got a call about you guys putting roadkill in a hotel room.
Two chuckle nuts looking like you two leaving roadkill in a room you thought was so funny.
So he tells them, get out of my state or I won't arrest you. So Sarah questions how long the monster truck's been following them, and that's when they tell her it's been about 2 days, and Adam believes that he took a wrong turn at this point, so he needs to pull off and check the map to avoid running into the Monster Man again because they can't go back because they're going to get arrested if they do.
Right.
So that's when a man with a severed limb knocks on their window and it tells them, you're next. That's what's written on the front of your car.
Oh, I love that. You're next. You're next. Anyway, that's what's written on your hood anyway.
Written on their car hood
"You
in blood.
are
next. So he's telling them again to watch out for the demon that did this because he actually was one that suffered him. And he tells a story about how there was a creature that would take the limbs from the people but leave the victims alive. And he's been doing this for years now.
Right.
So the three get back into the car, and Adam states that they're out of gas. And that's when they arrive in a ghost town. But it's not a ghost town because there's just scarecrows adorned throughout it.
Yeah, not creepy at all.
Not creepy at all. And at the end of the town, they find this little small diner, and they go to get some food. Everything's all cool. They're talking, and that's when the food's brought out, and Adam takes a bite of his chili, pulls out a long human hair, and then we get the grossest shot of his chili that has human teeth, eyeballs.
Oh, God, it's
so gross.
No subtlety whatsoever.
None. So they panic and they run back to the car, and that's when Harley soon finds that the corpse from last night is also seated in the back of the car now, and that's when the monster truck suddenly appears, chasing them down once again, but the whole time this chase is going on, this corpse is just knocking into Harley.
It's very Evil Dead 2.
Yes.
The corpse is falling into him, and he's getting it like right up against his face, and there's like sticky goo and
so
stuff.
Gross.
Very, very funny.
So after an intense chase, Adam veers off the road, but he can't get the car to start, and that's when the truck comes back into view, and it's heading right for them. So Adam and Sarah get out of the car right as the truck ramps off this hill onto the car, crushing Adam's car and Harley in the back of it. And that's when we also hear Harley deliver the greatest line of the movie, "I'm a corpse burrito, man." Because we see the corpse is just smushed right on top of him.
Yeah, but he's not killed. He's
not dead.
Been killed.
So Sarah and Adam go to get him free again, and the monster truck's revving up again, going off one more time. And right as they get Harley out, the car is crushed completely as the monster truck drives right over it. So that's when they race off into the woods, and that's when the monster man gets out of his car, and they decide to separate. So Adam tells Sarah to run. The monster man catches up to Sarah and screams, so she's taken away, and Adam finds her shoes in the woods calling for her, and also Harley has been thrown into a tree, and we think he's either dead or knocked out.
Yeah, he definitely ain't feeling good.
So that's when we get to the third act of Monster Man, and buckle up, kids.
This is where all sanity is not necessary.
It is not.
No.
So he is calling out to Sarah, and Sarah calls back out to him. So he follows her voice to the shack in the woods, and that's when he sees the monster man come out of the house. He watches the monster man go over and sharpen his knife before heading back into the house, and that's when Adam decides he's going to arm himself. So he grabs a shovel, and he enters the shack, and that's when we see the shack is adorned with severed limbs and pentagrams and blood all throughout.
Yeah, it's quite a sight.
Quite a house of horrors. So he also finds a man whose midsection is completely crushed and exposed, who comes to life stating, "Good evening. We've been expecting you. Thanks for joining us."
Like I said, this is where it's sanity. Just leave it behind.
So he laughs and he calls to Brother Bob as Adam finds Sarah in the back of the room tied to a chair. The monster man, who is Brother Bob, gets in the house as the man tells him that he's in that room. Adam quickly unties Sarah. They share a kiss, and he tries to go for one of the windows, and he tells Sarah to give him the shovel. That's when they cut back to Sarah, who laughs, swinging the shovel, knocking Adam out.
What a twist.
What a twist indeed.
So she is on the side of the monster people, whatever they are.
He comes to tied up next to the guy whose midsection is missing, and that's when it's revealed that Sarah is the sister to Brother Fred, who is the guy with the midsection missing, and Bob, who is the monster man. And Fred tells him that Bob one time, some time ago, ran over him accidentally, which caused him to get his midsection crushed, but also caused Bob to fly through the windshield. So both Bob and Fred were injured pretty bad, and that's when Sarah was able to sew Bob back up, but she used witchcraft to bring Fred back to life.
Which, I mean, is a perfectly reasonable explanation. As reasonable as any.
Yeah, and that's when she found out that they have to keep the victims alive in order for the limbs to keep working with the body. So there's something in regards to the souls working for the limbs to keep working, and that Adam is going to be the new body for Fred, and that they've prepared him this whole movie. And that's when it's revealed that Adam was basically sussed out by Sarah. She was driving the hearse in the beginning. She took his virginity. She tasted his blood. She put him inside a pentagram.
Yeah, this was all so that she could know he was the right match to replace her brother's lower half of his body.
And if you're thinking that sleeping with Roadkill wasn't part of that plan, it was.
Goddamn right it was. Darn tootin'.
So that's when Fred thanks him for the body, but questions, well, since you had sex with my sister, does that mean that I'm going to be the one to have sex with my sister now too? So there's a whole dialogue of that. And that's when Adam gets his hand free, slicing Sarah's throat, causing Bob to freak out and Fred to call out as well. Monster Man rushes at Adam, who takes his tiny pencil, which we forgot to mention the tiny pencil.
Well, there's so many little minute details. We didn't mention his Velcro love either.
Yeah.
How everything on him is Velcro. Yeah, so he has this tiny...
He has his little diary that he writes his gas mileage in.
Yeah, he keeps a notepad on him so he can keep up with his gas mileage, which Harley makes fun of him for. He's like, you track your gas mileage.
Yeah. So he takes the tiny pencil, sticks it into one of Monster Man's eye, and then decides to go ahead and stick it in the other eye as well. So Adam then headbutts the pencil into the second eye and slices Fred completely in half as Fred goes down saying, "Fuck you."
It's so fucking crazy. I love this movie.
Then Adam goes to work on the door, but Bob holds up the key. The Monster Man holds up the key, and he's looking, he's looking at Adam, and then he just eats the key. So now the key to the front door has been eaten by the Monster Man, and Adam trying to keep quiet because now Monster Man is blind in both eyes, but Adam also has a bloody nose, and Monster Man smells his blood.
This is such a fucking
This is
great
insane.
roundup.
So that's when he tries to work around the shack. Fred trips him, causing Adam's nose to bleed even more profusely, and Bob comments that the blood scent's drawing him stronger. So Adam decides to use the blood from his nose to lead the Monster Man to this huge piece of metal sticking out the door. So he runs it, puts it all over the door, and then that's when the Monster Man's like, okay, well, I got you cornered. So he runs at him and impales himself onto the door. As you do.
Folks, watch this movie.
So that's when Adam gets the knife, sticking Bob into the gut. He reaches inside his guts, rips out the key, unlocks the shack, and Bob follows him out until that's when Harley returns to the movie in the monster truck, running Bob right the fuck over.
Harley ain't dead.
He is not dead at all. So that's when Harley rises out and he's like, "Hey man, do you want to chance at this?" And that's when Adam gets into the cab, and we are at nighttime at this point, by the way. It's nighttime.
Yeah, which is another thing I couldn't believe I remembered.
Yeah. So we're at nighttime, and Adam just proceeds to just drive over Monster Man repeatedly to the point
Forward, backward, forward,
the
backward.
sun comes up, and he's still doing it. The tires are covered in gore. Monster Man is just a pile of bloody
of gore.
Of gore.
Random gore and hair.
And that's when, Harley's like, hey, man, I think you got him. I think we're good to go. So that's when he puts the ornament on the monster truck, which they're now taking. As they leave, we also see that Monster Man is just, like I said, a mass, and he's talking like, hey, I'm still alive. Like,
yeah, just he's literally just two lips on the ground.
Two lips on the ground moving. That's when we get the title for the end, but we get a question mark as we hear Fred pipe up the end. He's upset because he's still cut in half, and he also didn't get to fuck his sister. And he says, this sucks, and that's 2003's Monster Man.
And I gotta say, one of the reasons I think I loved this movie so much when I first saw it, and one of the reasons I appreciate it now is, yes, none of the main character, the one main character that turns out to be a villain dies.
Yeah.
None of the good guys die, but, and this is a big but, satisfying ending.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, not just smushing Monster Man into nothingness, but then the two guys, there's a great moment where Adam tells him, like, you really are a good friend.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, you too, bro. And then they hop in the monster truck and drive off into the sunrise.
Yeah, sunrise.
They drive off into the sunrise after deciding they're not going to go to that wedding.
Yeah, they're not going to go to Betty.
They're going to go and live their life, their best life. It's such a satisfying ending that the two friends get to be back together. We didn't have Harley die. I mean, granted, yes, it would have been more of a scary movie if Harley had died.
Yeah.
But what a fun ending.
No, it absolutely
right?
is. Absolutely is. So would you like to know what the budget was, or you want to guess?
I mean, my guess was in the 2 to 3 range.
$4 million.
Wow. Okay.
$4 million.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Supposedly shot in Santa Clarita, California, but you said that's probably the studio stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm nothing against Santa Clarita. It's just like so much of the movie's on the highway. It looked to me, and I'm not from California, it looked to me like Joshua Tree area, which I don't know actually how far apart they are. But I bet you Santa Clarita is where they had the sets built especially for the third act.
Yeah.
And all of the hotel room scenes and stuff like that. Just my opinion, though.
So shot over 22 days. The monster truck used in this film was designed and built for $2,500. The sheet metal covering the outside of the truck was actually wood spray painted to look like a very old rusted sheet metal. The truck only had a maximum speed of roughly 30 miles per hour, footage of the truck chasing after the car was sped up to make it appear as though it was capable of very high speeds. The truck could only use 20 to 30 minutes at a time before it would overheat and production would be shut down. It also ran on rocket fuel, which reported cost the producers $300 per gallon.
Holy crap.
There was no steering wheel. The driver was standing inside the truck using levers to control the speed and the direction.
That is awesome. Holy shit. And by the way, that is like when it comes to movies, using wood as fake metal, very common tactic.
The motel scenes were shot at a Christian retreat. The owners allowed the filmmakers to shoot anything they wanted with notable exception of any material involving satanic rituals.
Well, awkward.
The film was pressed on its title. Writer and director Michael Davis had to come up with a story that fit the title.
Oh, okay.
The actor who played Adam had to wear clothing 2 sizes too big in order to fit the nerdy image the cast production wanted Adam to portray.
I believe that. I've heard of that before.
Yeah.
Doing that.
The name Betty Ann used in the movie was inspired by Betty from the famous Archie comics because they wanted her to be portrayed as the girl next door that everyone falls in love with.
Aww.
And when the film was released in Latin America, it was released under the title Wrong Turn 2.
Well, there are many wrong turns.
There are many wrong turns. That is true. So what are your final thoughts on 2003's Monster Man?
Well, this one is such a nostalgic beast. But I will say, I always give a caveat.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you have to.
Yeah.
If you hate gory horror movies, don't even stream it.
Don't even stream it, yeah.
But if what you've heard sounds like your kind of thing,
Yeah.
definitely rent it.
Mhm.
I don't think it's an own it unless you're just a diehard.
Yeah.
But it is a stream it or a rent it. It is a lot of fun. It's satisfying. It's silly. It's a time capsule of a time that many people have forgotten. Remember, Dave, if you watched a film from 2003 today, that's like watching a film in 2003 that was made in the 1980s.
This is also true.
We're all gonna die.
We're all gonna die.
We're all gonna die soon.
So it is also a Reddit for me. This is a time capsule of early 2000s straight to video extreme horror. It's a lot of fun. It's the kind of thing that you will want to hang out with friends, maybe do a 6-pack over. Honestly,
oh, that's a great pizza and beer movie.
Yeah, and I mean, and above all else, it's a testament to how insane a plot can be, but how much fun and sense it can still make in the end.
The actors made it work great.
Yeah, I know, it absolutely is. So yeah, Reddit for me as well.
Well, so I got a question for you, Dave.
Yes, sir.
What were your thoughts after rewatching? Because you saw it later in life.
Yeah.
And then you just rewatched it in HD. Was there anything that surprised you or anything that or your own thoughts?
Yeah,
even? I
would honestly say what surprised me the most is the stunt work in it. The stunt work's super impressive, and I had kind of forgotten about it. And also, the runtime. I know I say this when it comes to really fun movies, but the runtime on this really does fly.
Yeah, it's like 90 minutes.
It's like 90 minutes, and you're in and out. But what I think I liked most about it was the Monster Man makeup. I never really noticed how.
Oh, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
everything. They don't do a lot in the movie, but everything they do, well, I mean, they do a lot, but everything they do is done well, or they don't do it at all.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really important lesson to filmmakers. $4 million may sound like a lot, but with all of these car chase scenes and special effects, actors filming in California, filming Union, it's going to get expensive very quickly. So the fact that you only had a few monsters and they looked amazing. You only had one truck and they made it look amazing. I still can't believe that they built it that way. I believe it, but it's insanity.
It's insane.
I wonder, was it just like, hey, we can call up my buddy Brett. He got banned for life from the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. That's the way it sounds like to me.
I can see that.
So I can't believe. I hope that this film is already gaining a cult following. And if it doesn't have one, I hope that people start discovering it. I would love it if one of the boutique labels
would give us a Blu-ray.
Or even Lionsgate's own Vestron or some shit. I would love to see it come out on Blu-ray so that collectors of horror movies can appreciate it even more. Just kick-ass movie.
So we like to end the show always with a couple of recommendations. My two this week, kicking off the first one, is one that I've already mentioned in this podcast, because this movie, I feel, has a lot in common with Monster Man, from its plot design a little bit to some of its reveals, and that is The Hills Run Red from 2009. A group of young horror fans go searching for a film that mysteriously vanished years ago, but instead find that the demented killer from the movie is real, and he's thrilled to meet fans who will die gruesomely for his art.
Yeah.
Cannot recommend Hills Run Red enough. A great William Sadler performance. A really fun movie if you are a fan of the 80s horror movie God damn it, what was that thing I'm trying to think? Homage.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Although much more violent.
Much more violent. And then the other one I'm going to give is another vehicular horror called Highwaymen from 2004. This is one not a lot of people have seen that stars Jim Caviezel. He plays Reddy Cray, embarks on a bloodthirsty rampage to avenge the death of his wife, who was struck down by a serial killer, a man who hunts and kills women using his 72 Eldorado. Highwaymen is one that not a lot of people have seen, as I said. It's definitely worth a watch, and above all else, it's got a really, really strong third act.
Okay.
So I highly recommend Highwaymen. What's your recommendation?
The one that you wish you'd recommended. Highway to Hell.
Highway to Hell?
From 1991. The description on IMDb is not much. An eloping bride is taken into hell and her fiance must pursue. It is a wackadoo of a movie.
Oh, yeah.
There is literally a scene where they show the road of hell being paved with good intentions.
It is. It is indeed.
But they make it literal.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Gilbert Gottfried plays Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler.
What more do you need?
Ben Stiller, Jerry Stiller. God, there's a bunch of people in this movie, and this movie was notorious for the longest time because of the cover of the cop. It's C.J. Graham, right? Yeah, who was Jason in Part 6. This cover was a Fangoria cover that people remembered because this movie didn't really get a wide...
It just kind of came out on tape.
It just kind of came out, yeah. So it was one that Kino lovingly released for us like several years back, and I cannot remember how... I mean, we had such a good time with it.
I was not prepared for how wacky it would be. There's basically a hell cop played by C.J. Graham who is who kidnaps his girlfriend and then is chasing down the fiance as he's trying to save her. It's basically Faust.
Yeah, it's basically Faust.
Yeah, and it's really, really fun.
Really fun.
Really
Probably
silly.
coming to the show at some point. If we can even manage to talk about it.
Once we start scraping the barrel like all the Blu-ray companies are.
You know. So that is going to do it for Monster Band this week. Would you like to know what we're talking about next week, Enrique?
Absolutely not.
Well, we are capping off our Summer Favorites month with one of the ultimate summer horror movies, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
From 1997.
Hush. Ba 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 da ba da ba ba hush.
Gonna get that stuck in my head again.
Na 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 na.
So that is what's gonna be happening next week on Do You Even Movie?
It might just happen.
It might.
So, well, real quick, we have an email.
We have an email. All right.
We do. From our good buddy Birdman, Mike Eschewey.
He may have told me about this.
Oh, well, shut up.
Not all of it. No, he just told me a little.
The subject line is "The chances are low, but not zero."
There we go.
Hey, gentlemen. So I had a thought while listening to your latest podcast on Twister and chatting with my wife. My wife, Blair, and I used to chase storms, and she has a bit of a background in meteorology, and she gave me an interesting fact. Not to be rude, but I just imagine that the storms in Canada are too polite to be interesting. Like a tornado would form and be like, hey, do you mind if I destroy your home, eh? And they'd be like, oh, no, we like our home. And be like, oh, okay, I'll go over to this empty field then.
Bye.
Bye. Poutine later. Flying debris is how a lot of tornadoes actually kill people.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. Glass, rocks, etc. Stuff on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
This triggered the memory of the barn in Twister with all the farming equipment and all the Looney Tunes level of insane violence that could have happened.
Yeah.
Now follow down to my thought experiment.
Oh, God.
No, it's not rocks or flying 2x4s or shards of glass. Dramatic pause. It's dildos, butt plugs, and vibrators cutting through the air like a sexy projectile. Enjoy. However, there is one thing that can withstand the awe-inspiring nature the awe-inspiring might of nature's fury, and the only thing that could truly save Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt.
No.
Do you know what it is?
No.
Dave's missing yellow belt.
God damn it.
Love you.
Well played, Birdman.
Love you and enjoy the thought of a giant butt plug impaling Carrie Elwes. Same scream, but sexy.
Oh my God.
Bye. And then he included a photo of a wall from a sex toy shop.
Oh my God.
How much for the plaid one? Inside joke.
The Scotsman.
So I want to remind you guys, you can email us, and we love hearing from you.
Yes, we do.
doyouevenmovie@gmail.com. In fact, we're getting spoiled because you guys are sending in so many emails that we're actually able to read them at the end of every episode.
It's awesome.
So keep it coming. DoYouEvenMoviePod@gmail.com or go to doyouevenmovie.com Send us an email. We love to hear from you. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. If you're listening to us on a podcasting app like Apple Podcasts or Spotify,
yes,
you can now leave comments on Spotify.
I've noticed that, yeah.
And if you leave a comment, I assure you I will read it, and we will either reply on the show or I'll reply directly depending on what your comment is.
Hell yes.
And make sure you leave a 5-star rating because it really does make a difference. And for everything going on with Do You Even Movie and even the Do You Even Movie t-shirt, which no one's ordered yet.
Bastards.
Yeah, it's at doyouevenmovie.com. So, Dave, you have anything you want to say before we get the hell out of here and go see Longlegs?
I think that is it for this week, but just one more push for Monster Man. This has really not been available to stream since I've had my DVD, which has been at least 15 years. So if you liked what you heard in this and you're still like, well, it can't be that crazy, check it out for yourself.
It's crazier than you think.
Yeah.
And in glorious high definition.
That it is. So that's going to do it for us this week.
We'll see you next time with I Know What You Did last summer. And Dave, I know what you did last summer.
Everybody does.
And you should have found your goddamn yellow belt a long time ago. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.